Hey there, English. Hey there, guys, English teachers and students. Jesse here from Sweet Academy, and welcome to another More Than English podcast. I have a little different of a format than I usually have here, meaning I don't have necessarily lessons for you, but I do have a nice warning story. And I have a special guest here. His name is Levi Grandt. Do you want me to share your name? Your last
It's
name?
fine. It's fine. Yeah.
Okay,
I
could just
put
call
my
you
name
Levi.
out there on all of this. Like, I'm ready to open up, It's just a whole thing that a lot of people wouldn't be willing to do. So I thought I'd take the jump, because I don't have a lot to lose from it. So
Okay, perfect. So we're going to talk to Levi, and he has an interesting story, and it's very applicable now since I know a lot of you are looking for jobs online. You started working online, and there is a ton of opportunity to teach English online because you're
mm,
teaching to the world. Right. But with that also comes some bad apples and some things to look out for and to be careful about. And that's what we're talking about today. We're going to talk about certain scams that are out there. I've kind of reached out and tried to defend some TEFL learning Facebook groups. There are a ton of scams out there
mm,
targeting English learners, but there are
yeah.
also scams out there targeting English teachers. And that's what we're going to talk about today with Levi. We're going to listen to his story and hopefully help anybody, prevent themselves from falling into some of these traps. So welcome, Levi. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, glad to be here. Um, yeah, so that's a good point. I'm in all the Facebook groups and I see these things all the time. So there's a bunch of lower level scams that go on all the time, and people are like, I would never fall for that. But this one is just, it was so sophisticated. So, you
Yeah.
know, but you gotta understand there's a whole level of scammers that are, you just never know it if you didn't know what to look for. So that's what I'm hoping to help people with today.
Fantastic. Yeah. I do want to get into that. I just want to mention also where I found you. I follow a YouTube channel called CoffeeZilla, and he kind of goes after online fake gurus as his thing that he targets. And
Yeah.
I really like his channel because it does help people avoid, you know, falling for these scams because these are professional scam artists. Like that's what they do. So it's really we're behind the eight ball unless you know what to look for. I really like CoffeeZilla. How'd you get in contact with him? Or how did
Oh,
he get in
my
contact with you?
friends. Well, one of my friends who was involved in this as well, kind of, he thought that I might have had the idea because I suggested something else, but he actually sent that link over to me. I was like, this looks interesting. So I went over there. I checked out his videos. Like, I've been waiting for this chance, you know, to
Awesome.
to see someone who's actually calling out these guys, because I knew about all these guru tactics. At this point, it was like somebody has to, just say something about it. So I reached out to him by email, and he responded right away. He's like, I'm interested in your story. So that's how we got in touch.
Perfect. I like his stuff. If I have one criticism about him, I think he goes a little overboard on the other side where skeptical about everything online and all info
Mm.
products. He kind of throws the baby out with the bathwater, as we would say.
Yeah, in
Have
some
you found
sense,
that?
you might be right about that. There's some other opinions that I don't necessarily agree with. Just about trusting the conventional wisdom of the day, and I don't, I don't necessarily buy into all that. I think there's a lot to be had by going your own route, doing your own research. So that's just my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, that's a big point. Do your research before you pay any amount of money.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
because as we'll find out, a little investment usually leads to more investment and more investment. And it's
Oh
good to
yeah.
do your due diligence. But let's get it like about you. Where are you from? And when did you start teaching and why?
That's a good start. I'm from West Virginia in the U.S., and that's where I am now. But around 2015, 2014, actually, I was like looking for a chance to just to travel, and I wanted to make as much money as possible. So I was looking for the best, quickest way to do that, and I think that's one of my problems. That's part of the mindset that led to this whole scam. But I decided, okay, why don't I go teach overseas? That seems like a pretty easy route to make some money and have an adventure. So that's what I did, and it worked out really well. I got to say, in terms of the money, I don't want to say it was the greatest lifestyle because you give up a lot when you leave home, and you're just kind of a nomad, always transient, passing through. And so eventually I decided I didn't want to do that anymore. But anyway, that's kind of how I got into it. I just wanted to make some money. And, teaching was I don't, it was just kind of a conduit for that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's
But
one of the biggest reasons
yeah,
people do. They don't know what their next step is, and there is opportunity out there to travel and stuff and everything. Where did you
yeah.
go?
Oh, China. Yeah.
Okay.
I went to Beijing, China, and I was there for 3.5 years. I worked my way up. I started, doing the little kindergarten stuff. I was teaching little kids, and then I I just hated it, but but eventually I decided, okay, I'm going to get into a more professional environment. So I got my teaching certificate because I knew I could make more money that way. And so now I could have been a professional teacher in the U.S. I passed all my praxis tests, and
Oh, really?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I got that done around 2017 in July, and at that time I was teaching at a private after school program in China. They paid pretty well. They allowed me to do some training for the next person who was going to come in. Made a little extra money that way, and then I went into an international school where I was a full time homeroom teacher,
This
and
was in China.
yeah, yeah. This was the last year I was there, and at that time, things started to kind of unravel a bit, because there was the worry about the visa, renewing my visa. I had a work visa, and unfortunately, I had done it not quite the right way, so I couldn't just renew it because it wasn't a teaching visa. It was a work visa, but it wasn't teaching. So
Was it done through your academy, or what do you mean it wasn't done the right way? Did you kind of like give your stuff to your academy and they kind of
well, I
went
should
through
back
their
up a
own
bit.
loopholes?
I should back up a bit. There was this guy that introduced me to it. I found him after I took this TEFL course from the International TEFL Academy, which there's some pretty good people. They got a good program going there. And then I got in touch with my friend in China, who's found me basically every job I ever had in China. And where was I going with that? I forget.
Well, your visa,
My visa.
like
Yeah, yeah.
how it
So
was.
he found a guy who was able to help do all the arrange all this stuff. I didn't know anything about this, so I paid him, like something like 10,000 yuan, Chinese yuan, to um to help get me legal. So he helped me get a work visa, and but unfortunately, because I couldn't, they didn't like it's just such a complicated system in China. They don't like English teachers. I was told not to say that I'm an English teacher.
Weird.
So yeah, when I renewed my visa, I was supposed to be working with him. You know, that was our story. I was working with him in some kind of sales company or something, and so that's how I
Weird.
got the
That's
visa
kind of a
renewed.
strange,
I
like,
wasn't a teacher, but
they
I was
offer
working for the
native
government.
English teaching jobs. You know, you see them on online forums and in job postings. But
There's this whole disconnect, you know, between the government and the people there. The people want to make money, and that's one of the ways you do it in China. You start an English training center because parents want their kids to learn English.
yeah,
The government just doesn't like that. They got this influx of foreigners coming into the country, just doing these low level jobs, and you're not treated that well. You know, I got to say that too. But
really, you would, in what ways?
um, just the way that everybody treats you like an outsider.
Hmm.
You know, and they feel like they can take advantage of you, and it was normal. Like the guy who he was a consultant, he found me all these jobs. He's like, you know how it is, man. You've been here for 3.5 years. You're getting cheated. I was like, yeah, but we can't just put up with that. But
This is just what happens here. You get cheated. That's all.
right. So yeah, the whole thing was you get paid while you're on
That's
the
unbelievable.
contract. And then once you're off the contract, they might have promised you some other monies like maybe a flight bonus or something. But if you did not renew the contract, they would release you. They'd be like, "We're not going to never mind all that stuff that was in the contract," you know. And that's the thing.
That contract schmontrack,
Right, right,
right? I
right.
guess if you don't have any power there, if like their government doesn't
Exactly.
really
Yeah,
want you
there's
there as
no
an official
recourse.
there's no backup that you have. You have no
Right.
backing. Wow.
Yeah, yeah. And
How
that's
many
that's
kids
one
were in
thing
a
I
class
started to
did you
realize.
teach? How many kindergartners did you teach in a class?
Um, I don't know. I was pretty lucky. There weren't that many. It was like 12 to
Okay, that's
15 or something.
yeah. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
lot though. By yourself.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes there were like 20, but you know, yeah, there could have been a lot more, believe me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, teaching kids is a curious thing. You know, either you love it or it's absolutely not for you. And it's kind of like one of those two things, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I liked it. I liked the theory side of it, but I don't know, I wasn't that great with kids. I didn't
Mm,
really enjoy the process that much. But I did get a sense of fulfillment. I know there's lots of people who thrive on this, but you know, I got a sense of fulfillment from the results that I saw.
yeah.
And I did see results, you know, especially in the last part where I was teaching at a international school there.
Definitely. That is what keeps a lot of people in the game. That's what you're there for, you know. I know there are like the TEFL industry, it is a lot of just trying to get out and like I said, figure out your next step, maybe get some money and I think that's okay. There's a place for that. And that's one of the things that it's good for people, if anyone's listening that is thinking about doing this. There is a lot of good opportunity. So we also have to be careful, right?
Right.
So you took a TEFL certificate and then you took an actual physical certification.
Yeah, yeah. So, you know, I at that point I'd
I
already
did that too,
had
by the way. I took
okay.
both of those too.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't think it's a bad path, you know, don't get me wrong, but I wasn't doing it for the right reasons, I think. So, yeah, I got my TEFL certificate first, and then a couple years after I got to China, I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to make some more money. So I got my real teaching certificate, and I got that online while I was in China. You know,
Yeah.
and there's some good programs that can do that too.
Yeah.
So.
Well, yeah, and I see that question a lot, like which certificate should I do? Should I do an online certificate? And I'd like to pose that question to you and bounce my answer off with you. And my answer is essentially it depends what you want it for. If you want it just as like the paper to get your foot in the door and to
Hmm.
get a little bump in your income in some countries, then go the cheapest route possible and get an online certificate, right? But if you're
Yeah.
really wanting to hone your craft and you want it to actually benefit you in the classroom, then I'd suggest going to an actual hands-on. I got my CELTA certificate, but there are some, 4-week TEFL certificates where you actually teach students and get feedback from instructors. So if you're looking
Right.
to use it to become a better teacher and to make teaching easier and more efficient for you, I suggest going the in class, the longer route. If
Hmm.
you're just looking for like to get that paper, the cheapest online program that people will accept. What about you? What would you say?
Yeah, sure. I was looking to be as qualified as possible for the job, so that's what I did. I took the in class route. I mean, it was online, but there was also some practicum offline. I went to a local college and uh, sat in on a English teacher teaching a few foreign students. So that was my route to fulfill that part of the program, and it was a good program. So it got me where I wanted to be, which was overseas teaching English,
Yeah.
making money. So
So then you're teaching for a few years, and I assume you're thinking about what next is and looking at more opportunity. So you come across this opportunity, and let's get into really what you saw when you got into this scam and what it is, how it got into you, what you clicked on, kind
mm,
of the process of going through the scam and what it was.
yeah, that's a good question. I was just clicking through Facebook, which I do a lot, and then and
Because
then
you're normal.
yeah, right. I came across this ad, for the franchise. Like, we need a lot of like they're trying to fulfill a demand for teaching English overseas, and people have to get their TEFL certificates. So it's like, oh, this sounds okay. I didn't really think about it that much at first, and then my uncle actually sent it to me. He's like, "I thought of you when I saw this." I was like, "Hmm." So I clicked on it. I just saw the opportunity to make money right there, and I was like, "I'm gonna jump on this."
What did it
So,
say?
well,
I mean, roughly.
yeah, yeah. It's like there's a huge industry out there. We need people to help us sell these TEFL courses, and we're gonna give you a franchise. It was called a franchise. That's probably not the legal term. It was basically just affiliate marketing. I marketed my link, my affiliate link, which went back to their page, their sales page, and I was told that everybody that clicked on my link and signed up would be credited to me as a sale, and I would get 80% of the profit for that.
Yeah,
It
I
seemed like
remember.
a good deal.
I heard that on 80%
Yeah.
is a lot for an affiliate
Yeah.
link, right?
Yeah, you're right. I should have seen this before, it's like, who would give you 80% of of their money?
Right.
Somebody who wants $30,000 from you, which is what I paid to join that program. So, yeah, that's one of the reasons he called it a franchise. Like, why else would you ask for $30,000?
Yeah. And so, yeah, that's curious. So they were asking for $30,000. What kind of, do you remember what sounded so alluring that would have you like take that giant step?
Yeah, just the prospect that I could make. They said over $100,000 a year. Everybody says if it's too good to be true, it probably is, but it's not always obvious that it is too good to be true. So so it's like, okay, $100,000 a year, that's pretty good. It's not like millions, but it's good. So
Yeah.
and then they said, well, if you don't make $50,000 within the first year, we'll refund your franchise fee. I was like, okay, so it's a safe bet, right?
Yeah. 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 That that does get you, doesn't it? Because you're almost you kind of think that it's a guarantee at that point. You're like,
Yeah,
well,
right, right.
this is
Nobody
guaranteed. It's a
fulfills those
no
things.
lose
Right.
situation for me, right? Um, and the thing that 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 gets you is there's no way that sounds good, and
Yeah.
that's probably what is so alluring to people. But there's no way to defend against that because, as we'll get into, he wasn't even in the United States,
Right, right.
um, and and there's no nothing to hold his feet to the fire. Um, but continue. So tell me more. Take me step by
Okay,
step of
okay.
what happened.
Yeah, yeah. So I started to do my research, whatever I could do. Obviously, I didn't do enough. I get that all the time. There's a lot of people who I've been out there on this, and I've told some people have responded. They said this guy obviously didn't do his research. Well, I did, but
Yeah, no,
a lot
that
of
kind of
these
thing is
stories,
easy to
yeah,
say when you're
yeah,
listening to the story and having time to think about it, knowing in hindsight what it is. When you're in a
yeah.
situation, it's completely different.
Yeah, and this guy was a sophisticated scammer. He was able to, go under the radar sort of while still maintaining this facade of being uh, all that, I guess.
Can
And
you say
then
his name?
Jimmy Krangle.
Jimmy
Yeah,
Kringle. Crangle.
that's right. Yeah,
Okay.
and sometimes he's gone under another name, James Nicole,
James Nicole.
Nichol. You know,
Nichol. Okay, just so when people, if people want to like Google or research or something, just to throw some red flags up there.
yeah, Jimmy If you Google Jimmy Kringle, you'll find a lot of stuff.
Okay.
Promise you on that.
Okay.
Now you will because it wasn't out there when I joined the program, and I wished it was. But
That's
but
another thing with people who say, "Oh, he should have done this." Look, I'm googling it right now, and the first things that come up is a scam. Well, yeah, it is
yeah,
because of people
that's
thanks to you.
partly because of what I did. Yeah.
Exactly.
So yeah, this wasn't out there when I got involved. This information. It might have been a tiny bit, and there were a lot of people who were involved in 2011. I've talked with many of them, and they shared their stories with me. And we part of that was collaborating, getting together, and saying, "Hey, we should do something about this." And that's when these people who were involved in this, they've been chasing this guy since 2011, and they're like, "Okay, we're going to make a concerted effort to get the message out there."
Mm.
And that's what we did together.
And
And thankfully,
he's based out of Thailand.
yeah, that's right, yeah. And thankfully, he's no longer offering this franchise. He's no longer selling TEFL courses even. So, but he's still out there. That's the thing,
That
that
that's the thing. People like that, he's probably just working on his next game.
right.
You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Um. Okay, so he offers part of his franchise for 30,000,
Mhm.
and it's a guaranteed deal. So you decide, okay, let me see a little bit more, right?
Yeah.
And then what happened? You ended up going to Thailand.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, that's right. There
Yeah.
was a
Which was
lot of things he
also that's
offered.
also got to validate it a lot because you're actually going, seeing this guy face to face, shaking hands,
Exactly.
spending
Exactly.
time.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that because I was thinking that at the time. It's like, how could this possibly be a scam? I'm here, I'm talking with the guy. So this is only something that happens online when you get scammed.
Yeah.
You know, I was having these doubts, but I was constantly saying like, no, no, I don't see how this could be a scam. I'm just going to do my work, and it's going to turn out great.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of validations of that along the way. Like he offered me the free iPad. I got the free iPad, and or at least I got reimbursed for buying one. And then,
Okay.
while I was in China, and then I was like, okay, I've kind of had enough of this teaching deal, so I'm going to go home. But that I finished my contract with the international school first, and during that time, I was just kind of trying to hire some people to help me get the work done and get the advertising done, for his TEFL courses. So I hired a few people. Some of them didn't turn out to be that great people, obviously, and but I
On
did
Upwork
find, yeah, I
or
found
Fiverr or
somebody on
something?
Upwork.
Okay.
Yeah.
To
You know,
advertise for your franchising program. So you're getting a piece. So you kind of want to outsource a little bit of the advertising to people who are kind of experts in that field, allegedly.
yeah, I wanted to outsource most of this stuff because, as I said before, my mindset was that I wanted to make as much money with as possible without doing, with while doing as little work as possible.
Yeah, work
And this
smarter,
sounded
not
like a great
harder.
way to do that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And I want to emphasize there are ways to do that, but you got to put in the work first to get there. It's going to take a while to get to that point. So go through a
absolutely.
legitimate route, before you think that you can find some way right now without skills that you can find a way to make money without working. You have to work first. So,
I'm so glad you said that because that
yeah.
is that's when I was talking about CoffeeZilla going a little too far on the other end. There is a lot of legitimate opportunity online, but you're not gonna like you exactly like you said, you're not gonna have no skills and jump right in and have some automated service bringing you money, right?
Yeah.
Like you've got to do some legwork in the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
so
so
you where did we leave off? You went out to Thailand. You got a free
yeah.
iPad,
Mhm.
and then you
Yeah,
went out to Thailand.
yeah, and he had a few of these. I looked at his website and everything. There was this job board where people could find jobs. Like, okay, this is legit. And because he was following through with the TEFL stuff. At least it wasn't hard to do because you didn't have to be accredited to do any of this.
Hmm.
Anybody could start a TEFL course, but he had a few of these in-class TEFL courses listed on his website, and those would fetch a higher commission if I was to sell those. But that's beside the point. He had a few of these in-class courses listed in Thailand. He's like, okay, you get to test ride one of our TEFL courses, and we'll pay for your hotel stay and the TEFL course. So I was getting to stay on a tropical island in Thailand for free, basically, except for the plane flight to get there. It's like, well, okay, I'm going to go home to the US, but first I'm going to stop over in Thailand and I'm going to do this TEFL course. And just a few days later, I'm going to fly to Bangkok. I think I took a ferry actually. And then, so I went to Bangkok, and that's where I met Jimmy Krangle. We did our training, franchise training. We called it a mastermind event.
How many
So,
people were in the event?
um, there was about 10, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, at that time. He said there were more before. It could have been true. I don't know, but about it at that time there were about 10 of us. We went through this training for doing online marketing. There's a guy who also lives in Thailand there. He's from England. He did the training. It was a good
Was
course.
it valuable training? What kind of information did they share?
It seemed valuable. It was only 2 days, so we didn't get that much out of it. But if you start with no skills, you're not going to learn anything in 2 days. But he did this course, and he was a good teacher. So I respected him. No, I have no complaints against what he did. He was because I reached out to him
The
afterward.
English
He
guy.
was, yeah, 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 and the guy Jimmy Krangle who was running the scam, he was Scottish. He was also living in Thailand,
Okay.
so he paid for us to go do this course, and then we were staying in a five-star hotel in Bangkok, and that was being paid for as well. And we had these meetings in the hotel, and that's where Jimmy kind of put on his spiel about how this is going to make us all so much money, and the industry is only going to go up from here. 2019 is going to be it, baby. So,
Dude, that's it.
yeah,
So, so yeah, and then, so did most of this happen when you went back to the United States then, and you were looking for a marketing team on Upwork?
yeah. Well,
What did you?
okay. I should be a little more clear about the timeline. That's a good
Okay,
point. So,
yeah,
I started. Uh, I invested, or I paid into
you.
this in 2018 in February, and then at that point, I started looking for some people to help me kind of automate this thing. So I was looking on Upwork, and I found some people. They didn't do anything. They were kind of a scam as well.
Yeah,
And
I
then
remember you saying that, and I wanted to dig into that a little bit. What did that? Who did you find on Upwork? And you did say that you found some legit people on Upwork too.
yeah, yeah, you can find
So
anybody on Upwork, and
yeah, for sure. So tell me
right.
about the scammers on Upwork, the marketers that didn't fare out well. What are some of the warning signs about that?
Yeah,
Like what made
they
you
made a
think they
good.
were scammers?
Well, I didn't realize it at first, obviously.
Well, yeah.
They made a good pitch, and they said, what we can help you create your own brand. We do influencer marketing. So they didn't do any paid ads, so I didn't pay for any advertising, but I paid them to do all this stuff. So they put together a few generic posts and posted it on my Facebook page, and there wasn't much else that came out of it other than that. They promised they were going to deliver this. They were going to create me this website. They sent over, you know, a version of what they were going to do. I approved it. The work never got done. I waited. I had this person that I was talking with on the phone at the time, um, and they kept promising me that it would be done within 24 to 48 hours. And I would call them again after that timeline passed. That happened over and over again for about 3 weeks and
Oh.
never got done. It's like,
Uh, how much did you pay them?
um, it was, well, at first they quoted the price as $1,000 a month. And then I was like, eventually I turned them down. It's like, I'm going to go with somebody else on this. And they lowered their price to 700 a month. I was like, well, in that case, I think I'll do it. You know, so I was paying them. They gave a little discount for having automatic clearinghouse, which is kind of a bank setup where they can directly take the money out of your bank. And so I was paying them $665 a month, and I did that for 3 months. So I lost about $2,000 to them. That's
With nothing to
basically.
show for it, essentially. They
Nope,
didn't.
not
Did
at
they
all.
stop picking up the phone when you called them?
Yeah, a bunch of the times they missed meetings. I scheduled all these meetings online, and they always had an excuse at the time that they couldn't meet with me. A couple of times they met with me, I guess, just to promise me more.
Yeah.
And y-
So,
and yeah, go
so
ahead.
sorry. Then you, but then you found, I don't want to always only harp on like the misses and
Mhm.
the unfortunate opportunities. You did say that you found some good marketers and good people on Upwork too. What was the difference? What did they do for you?
They set up this whole platform where I was able to communicate with them. Um, and they actually did the marketing. I was paying for the advertising. I supplied these professional ads that I had created, um, and they did what they were supposed to do. They marketed. They manipulated the metrics on Facebook advertising because that's what we were told to do is just Facebook advertising. That's how we were going to make all this money. So that's what they did. And I was like, okay, in the beginning, we had all these leads. We had some very promising metrics on Facebook, but just no sales, no results. But in the beginning, there were like one or two sales. There were two sales I remember, and I got credit for those. So that kind of egged me on. That was in October of 2018,
So you got
and
two sales. How much would you be making at one sale? How much did he promise you first? How much was the course? So you'd make 80% of that.
right. It was the course was about it was like $200 to $300, about $300. So I'd make
Oh,
about
okay.
250 or something for each
Okay.
sale. And yeah, I did make those two first sales, and at that time, the market was starting to go down. Um, as they stated in their business model, the winter months were going to be low
Sure.
for everybody,
Yeah.
just because of the way the market is. So at that point, I talked with Jimmy Krangle. I was like, okay, I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop this whole operation for the time being and get through winter. And at that point, that's when I went to Thailand.
Hmm.
So and it was nice because I got to escape the winter months, in Beijing and go down to Thailand where it was always sunny.
Nice.
Well, not
Another
always sunny,
benefit
but
of being a TEFL teacher, you
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. And I had all these. He was paying for all this stuff, so I thought, well, of course it's legit. He's paying for me. He's doing
Yeah.
all this stuff,
I mean,
so
all of these are signs.
he's fulfilling these things, so
Yeah,
far. And that's one of the ways he sucks you into giving him $30,000 is he fulfills everything at first until you
to
realize that
take the
what
big
you
score.
actually paid for is not coming.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. And that's a good point. And I think this is a good point to say that anyone like we touched on before who would be listening and say, "Oh man, like how can this guy be such a fool? Didn't he see this coming?" Well, there were all of these signs. Those are like confidence builders, like buying like the iPad,
Mhm.
paying for your hotel, doing all of these little kind of confidence checkpoints to give you more confidence in his program.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
going through all that without this information, like I don't think anyone can blame you.
Well, I don't know. I've had some time to think about this, and I do partially blame myself because of the mindset. Like I told you, I was looking to get rich quick. So then I kind of, after all this happened, I started to realize what I was doing, and it's been something that's been with me for a long time. I had a lot of money to invest at that time because I'd saved it all up. I had invested in cryptocurrency, which made me some money. Um, that's a long story too. I don't recommend anyone get involved in cryptocurrency. I
I
got
don't either.
lucky, and I made about $22,000 off of that. And I had this money to invest. There wasn't a lot of downside at that point. It's only $30,000 out of the 80,000 or so that I had saved up at that point. And so I took the plunge, and it, at that point it was just a downhill slide. It was like I'm going to throw money into this thing because it's supposed to work, and
You're going to double down and just go for it.
yeah, and I've got the money to spare.
Yeah.
There's no way it's not going to pick up before I run out of money. But as you know, eventually I did run out of money because they mm, well in fast forward to 2019 January, I started back up, started doing the advertising again. Uh, at this point, I had paid for the scam $2,000. Um, I'd paid my legitimate marketing company $1,000 a month plus advertising costs, which were $2,000 a month. Um, that was paid for it gradually over the course of the month, so it might not have always added up to that, but I was just hemorrhaging money the whole time. And I paid for these, like, if there is any way that I can make this work, I'm going to make it work.
I think
So,
that's a very good point.
yeah, yeah. I did everything that I thought that I could do, and it was all everything was solvable with money in the online marketing world. So I created my own web page. I paid somebody to create a web page, a sales page, also a blog page. I wrote blogs,
Nice.
and yeah, I kept at it for a while. I kind of built up a sort of following base on my
Nice.
Facebook page, and yeah, I built up a little following there, and at this point, I'd already paid for so much. It was like, I'm in this too deep. I'm going to keep going. It's got to work within the next several months, or else I'm going to run out of money. And then, I January was the only chance, because I'd been told that I had to stick with it for at least a month in order to see things pick up into the profit zone. But that was just one of his tactics. You have to
That
keep
is,
working at it.
yeah. And is that what he said? He told you give it a month.
Yeah, yeah.
Because in the entrepreneurship world, a month is nothing.
Exactly. Right, right. So yeah, I was
But you
beginning
don't
to
know until you
discover.
know, you know.
Yeah, I thought, because I was paying so much that I could just sort of fast forward all this progress. And he said you have to stick with it for at least a month continuously. You can't take breaks, because then you lose all your progress. I don't know if that's true or not, but it might be to some degree.
Yeah.
But then, so I was like, okay, I'm going to commit to this for at least a month, and I did. I saw one sale in the beginning, and then nothing for the rest of the month.
Hmm.
And at that point, I was getting very frustrated with Jimmy. We had a few calls, and you know, I think he was starting to sense that I was getting a little too frustrated for his liking, because I was starting to question things,
Yeah.
because I wasn't seeing results. And
Sure. What was his demeanor like? What was he like to talk to? Was he personable? Was he like a fast talker? Was it, like, what was he like?
he just had this air of knowing everything, being the expert. He wasn't a very charismatic guy, just kind of a plain talker, but he acted like a very savvy businessman and marketer,
Yeah,
which he was. Apparently he was a good salesman, because he was able to portray this sense of, I'm all that, I'm really good at what I do.
I've got it all under control.
Exactly, yeah.
And he did,
Yeah, yeah.
just not for you.
Right, right. Yeah, he had it pretty well under control for himself.
Yeah. So and then when you said that he was starting to sense that you were getting fed up with it, did his demeanor change? Was it getting short? Was he missing calls?
Yeah, it was getting a bit short with me. He missed a call, and that was my sign. He didn't give me any warning. He was just like, "Oh, sorry, I had to catch a plane, so I wasn't there for your call." It's like, well, you don't just miss an appointment. You got to give me some notice of that. but but he didn't want to talk to me, I don't think, at that point. But he sent me a message on WhatsApp, and he was like, "Hey, I explained all this to you. There's, this is why you're not seeing sales, and like, how many times do I have to say this?" I was like, I still don't understand what's going on here. So
That's
so it,
crazy.
yeah, and then after that, after he said all that stuff on WhatsApp, I guess he blocked me or something, because at that time I still didn't know that it was a scam, but
Yeah.
he blocked me on WhatsApp. He didn't want me to have his number. So his profile
as
disappeared.
you were in his program.
Yeah, right, right. I was still in the program and I was still spending money.
That's got to be the biggest sign you could ever have.
Absolutely, and that's the point at which I consulted my marketers who were telling me, you know, okay, that they were kind of in the beginning. They were kind of like, oh, this will pick up gradually. We're confident we can do it because they were good at what they did,
Yeah.
but it was the problem was the product,
Yeah.
not them.
Yeah. So
So
then
they
they
were
pro
saying
go ahead.
they were saying, we should have been seeing some sales by now.
Yeah, because I was going to say they're probably surprised because they probably have their process that was successful and they had a certain
Yeah,
a certain percentage of success. And if they're not seeing that, that's probably got to be some red flags to them.
absolutely. Yeah, they were saying we're getting really frustrated about this because we're not seeing any sales. And we had seen a couple of sales, so I think that kind of validated it for them too.
Hmm.
But um, yeah, at that point, they were getting really frustrated. That was really in contrast to what Jimmy was saying, which was you just got to hang in there, and it's going to pick up in a couple of months. I promise you. So,
Yeah, yeah.
so I was seeing this disconnect in what they were saying. I'm like, okay, well, before Jimmy deleted me on WhatsApp, he said we've changed our mind about these guys because I had kind of vetted them with Jimmy, and he said, yeah, they looked like they're a good team. But at that point, they're like, we changed our minds about these guys. You should fire them and find a new team. Like, you mean I got to start all over? I'm gonna lose all my progress and just do it all again for you?
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So then I mean, how did you get out? Like, how did you finally, put all the pieces together and then get out? I know that you asked for your money back, and that was a whole process. So,
Yeah.
explain to me how you got out and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah. Well, that's a long story in and of itself. So, but I had been in this for a bit longer than other people who were also in the program. So
I'm sure.
I'd been in it for all of 2018, going into 2019. March is when I finally realized that I got to stop this. So I let go of my team. I was like, no complaint against you guys. You did a good job. You did what you could do. But I'm going to call this, it's done. So they walked away, and I was happy to work with them, but I had to turn my attention on what mattered, which was that I was getting played by Jimmy Krangle.
Hmm.
So I was like, maybe I just failed. In the beginning, this was my mindset. It's like, maybe I just failed. I'm not good at this. So hopefully they'll be honest enough to refund my money like they said they would do. So I asked for my money back by email, and they're
So
like,
you
okay.
thought it was still your fault at this point, or you were kind of keen to it, but
I don't know. Yeah. I was kind of hoping it was my fault because then
yeah,
if it wasn't my fault, then that would mean that I got scammed, and I didn't want to
you
believe
don't want
that
to
yet.
admit that. Yeah.
Right, right. So, I came to this realization gradually, and I asked for my money back. They said, "Okay, we have to consult the board of the meeting of the company." It was basically just Jimmy. I don't think there was any board. There was nobody there. I met
his
two
his
people.
board is the same as my boardroom.
Yeah, yeah. I met two people in Thailand. I met Jimmy and this lady who was like his assistant from Russia. Um, sometimes I could tell that she was actually responding to my emails. Um, and then the rest of the time there's these other people that he had like a manager, or he claimed to have a manager running this thing. He was like the CEO, and he I think this was all just him taking on these different names and personas to send these emails to me saying all these things. Is we got to consult the board of all Jimmy's personalities,
For
I
this
guess.
franchise that you're
Right,
going
right.
to invest in. Yeah, all the right words, all the business words that sound good.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. They were good at they really liked to note things in their email. They were very professional, very I don't know, above everything. They just kind of said, we noted that you didn't do all this, and that's why we're not going to give you anything. So, so yeah, at that
which
point,
you
I
went
was like,
above and
oh
beyond
man,
probably what most candidates did
yeah,
in their quest for this.
yeah. At that point, I went full rage on them. I was like, you better give me my money.
What's this full rage look like?
just articulate.
Typing really hard on the yeah, like you better give me my money or else I'm gonna do something.
Yeah, yeah, and I was gonna do something. And I did do something.
Oh,
So,
good. What were you gonna do and what did you do?
well, I was gonna do whatever it took, and I had saved these contacts with people just in case, because I thought that we should stick together. It's like these are other franchisees. They're like me. They're involved in this thing, so we got to save our contacts. We got to get together, uh, whether it goes well or not. So so at that point, I was starting to tell all the people who I'd come into contact with, I think this is a scam.
Hmm.
And at first, they weren't so sure. They're like, I'm gonna try it this for a little while before I give up. It's like, well, I really think it's a scam. So eventually, they came around. So I was like, I'm just telling you what I've went through, and I want to save you from this if I can.
Right on.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't want to be saved. They didn't want to be told that they'd been scammed because that would entail
Uh,
all of the things that I was suggesting doing, which is this long drawn out fight against the company.
hmm.
They would rather pick up a sale here and there where they could. Like I'd made a couple of sales and just kind of live with it. Like they'd made a mistake. I'm just gonna make whatever sales I can and
Yeah. Just kind
you
of
know,
yeah.
recoup
Do
my
what I
losses
can.
if possible. Yeah.
Yeah. Or
So yeah.
or
Or we could all get together and try to bring this guy down.
there you
And that's
go.
what I did. We started a private Facebook group, and there were about there were at least 20 people. Now there's like 23 or something. But there's a lot more people than are in that Facebook group. Some people just don't want to be involved in this.
I mean, is the Facebook group something for only the private people who have been taken by this guy, or like, do you?
Yeah, yeah.
Is it
Only
like
people who had been
people
involved
against
in the
Jimmy
scam.
Kringle or something like that?
No, no. We were pretty careful about letting people into this group. We didn't want to we first of all, we didn't want to upset Jimmy Kringle unnecessarily because he was still
Why?
promising that he was going to give some of our money back.
Oh, because you hadn't got your refund at this point, so you kind of
Right. And I was
wanted.
threatening them with legal action. I was like, I'm going to do something to bring you down, whatever it takes. You
Had you
better give
talked
me
to
my
any
money.
lawyers?
Uh, I talked to Jimmy's fake lawyers. I consulted one of my friends when I was in West Virginia. He talked to me about the contract they had signed, which that was after they had already promised to give my money back, and they'd sent me over a settlement agreement which we had signed, and he was late on his payment, and the lawyer was like, "Well, that's not really uh, a grounds for for
Legal action.
nullifying the contract, basically."
Ah,
Right.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah. So I had to wait a little bit longer because he was late on a payment, but he did eventually pay me $500. I think just to just to keep me happy for the time being.
Yeah.
And he did this with the whole group. Eventually, he found out about the group, and he updated his franchisees. He said there's like a few people, there's like 4 or 5 people on the internet. Um, they're disenfranchised, and and
Stay away from them.
yeah, right, right. And
Yeah.
they're trying to destroy my reputation and my company.
They didn't do the work that they were supposed to do, and they're
Right.
blaming it
Yeah.
on me, and probably, I'm sure, things like that. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. But we knew better than that at that point.
Yeah.
I had woken up a lot of people to this, and there were a bunch of other people who were willing to take the lead at that point and start organizing some things we could do to get back at Jimmy Kringle. So we posted a bunch of these negative reviews that you now see online, and we got his name up there.
Yeah,
And
because I
it,
was searching his name when I saw this,
yeah,
and a lot of it is scam and all of that. So well done on that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That was due to a lot of the people, who were involved at that point. I can't take full credit for starting this thing, but I was involved, and you know, a lot of the people lost years of their life to this thing. Probably
And
more than I did.
like, you
So
were fortunate you had money from cryptocurrency that you talked about, but most people in the TEFL world, I mean, are living paycheck to paycheck. Essentially, they don't have any savings. They're a lot of the time fresh out of university, and
yeah.
like, they don't have that kind of money. And I'm sure there are people that saw greener pastures and decided to go into massive debt from this, in this promise.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's a lot of people who are living paycheck in China, and I was just kind of sitting back collecting my paychecks, being like, "What are y'all so worried about when they pay us?" Because sometimes the schools would be late on their payments too, but they always did pay eventually. So you
Yeah,
know,
yeah. Well, that's a whole other kind of warning
yeah,
signs in the TEFL industry, shady
right,
academies and things.
yeah, they're all shady in China.
Yeah.
There's well, I don't want to say that, but
Yeah, you can't say that, but
they far outweigh the positives, I
yeah,
think. The good people in China. And
yeah.
I worked for a pretty good employer. I was trying to pitch this idea of, me moving up into doing some different kind of work that would earn more money.
Hmm.
Um, there was just there wasn't that much opportunity for a foreigner except for being a principal. If you could be a principal, eventually you could work your way up and be the foreign principal of a school. They would also have a Chinese principal, but you're basically the face of the thing. So
So tell me that, I'm sure the story, it has a happy ending. How is so
happy.
maybe maybe like lessons learned, because I here's what I want to do from here. I want to talk about maybe where you are now and what you're looking forward to in the future, because, and then I want to talk about some general warning signs before we finish, and then call it a day. So, like, where you are moving forward, and then some warning signs. I have some warning signs here too. So let's talk about that, because like, unfortunately, I think you. How old are you?
30. I'm
Okay,
gonna be 31 in June.
okay, yeah. So, I mean, you're looking forward, and like you said, you're like, well, I have blame that I can take for this. Yeah, when I said like nobody can blame you, I meant like nobody else can blame you. Of course you blame yourself. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
that's step one, after making any mistake. And I've made some big mistakes also. Like,
yeah,
owning it is the first step, and you've
yeah.
done that, and you're taking steps to
I
help
think
others. And I think you're doing all the right things to move forward and doing everything you can. So congratulations on that.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah, like I said, I'm not afraid to put my face on this anymore. It's just I've kind of gotten over it, and I've forgiven Jimmy Krangle because I know that he was just he chose that life for himself. I wouldn't envy him. I wouldn't trade the world for being in his spot. I wouldn't trade anything for being in his spot, you know?
No.
So, you know I if I could be the best scammer in the world, would I do it? No. I don't wanna live like that. But so, um, yeah, uh, where I'm moving forward,
Yeah.
basically, I started another career in aviation maintenance technology, and, still going to school for that. Things are tough now because of COVID-19 and everything,
Yeah.
we're hoping things are gonna get pick back up and, you know, gonna be able to get back on my feet. Currently I am on my feet more or less. I've been, when I realized that I lost all this money, you know, I was in kind of a dark place and I was just staying with my folks back at home, and I decided, okay, whatever it takes, I'm gonna move forward. I'm gonna get out of here. I'm gonna be on my own. So I did that. I kind of lived in poverty for a while and going to school, working two part-time jobs and teaching online as well when possible. But that work was unreliable, so I had to get a reliable job, and I was kind of happy I did that. Got a raise at that job, and then that job went away because of COVID-19. It was at a restaurant.
Mm.
Um, I have an internship that's supposed to be starting in June, so that'll be good. They've delayed it a few times because of the virus as well, but hopefully that's going to go okay. So, I'm looking forward to the future, and right now I'm financial school debt, which is troubling. I didn't have any debt before this, which is what allowed me to kind of live without so much worry all the time. And kind of led to me getting involved in this because I had the financial freedom to do it. But yeah, so at this point, you know, I'm much lighter financially for what happened, and
But
I'm
much
just trying to
wiser.
build back up. Well, yeah,
and
much
that's and
wiser.
that's the thing. Like, this was an expensive lesson, but if you play your cards right, which you seem to be, that's just what it is. It's an expensive lesson, that you'll
Yeah,
never fall for anything like that. You'll be better, and you'll probably see more opportunities and open more opportunities in the future because of this. And who knows, by going out there and putting yourself out there, who knows what opportunities that this could lead that you don't even see right now, you know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Thanks for saying that. I have learned a lot. I can't claim to know everything,
No.
but I do think I'm qualified to tell people the warning signs here, and it's basically don't trust anyone who doesn't take some of the risk with you if they offer you a business proposition. Because Jimmy, he got into this thing, and after I got involved, I started to realize, okay, what risk is he taking on for offering me this business proposal? And basically, the idea was, I just give him $30,000, and then what happens after that?
And promote his services.
He's not actually giving me anything, so there's no risk that he's taking in doing this. He just gets $30,000,
Yeah,
and that's
yeah.
it.
And that's the thing, right? Um, I'm glad that you're going over warning signs, and I would actually like. I'm going to share my screen here because I do have this part just from my experience in being in Facebook groups for learners. And I also have a warning sign for teachers too. And let's go through these. Um, and I'd like to get your take on this too.
Okay,
Okay.
good deal.
So, like from warning signs for students, I see this all the time. Offer for certificates for TOEFL, GRE, IELTS, TEPS, FCE, PTE, XYZ, like just
So
in
you mean
one
all the things, basically?
any certificate that you could ever hope for, we offer it.
Yeah,
And be careful with that. That's a major red flag to me when I
yeah,
see that. And I want to share with students because, the more quality a program is, the more specific and refined it is.
yeah,
You'll have a TOEFL certificate, a TOEFL program. We teach
yeah,
TOEFL. We teach IELTS. We teach, Cambridge exams.
yeah. And well, there's a bit of a caveat to that too, because they kind of ran a simple TEFL course, they called it, and they just offered 3 packages, which is like 120 hours. They offered certain things for each level, and that was just it. I don't think that the students were taking that much risk by getting involved. They just paid Jimmy, a couple $100, and they could say that they had a TEFL certificate, and the schools would be okay. Looks good. You can work here.
Mm,
This is all we need, really.
yeah,
And yeah, because they didn't really care about certification. They just want some verification that they'd done something that they could give to their government to say, okay, native English speakers can work here. That's all they wanted was native English speakers. So
yeah. That's the thing. That's what's
yeah,
in demand, isn't it?
yeah, and there's not a whole lot of TEFL courses out there that are actually legitimate. So
You
that's
mean
one thing.
online TEFL certificates?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
If they There's only one that I can think of that actually offers in-course practicum, which is the International TEFL Academy. If you know some others, that would be great as well.
I took the CELTA at International House.
Yeah, that's another certificate that seems to be legitimate, and it's a
Yeah,
little more rigorous, I think, than TEFL.
yeah, and a little more. I guess it's seen as a higher standard a little bit, but
Yeah,
it
yeah,
it was a 4 week program. It was intense too. Like it was hands on teaching. It was really job training, right?
yeah.
Um, Also, and these are for students, by the way. Um, I've seen this all the time. Offer anything without sitting the exam. You can get the IELTS certificate, any band you want, and you don't have to take the exam.
Okay, well, what do you mean by sitting there? Like sitting in
That's
a classroom?
No, no, taking the exam. We say taking the exam. The British, they use sitting the exam.
Oh, okay.
And on a lot, since most of these, like the IELTS, the FCE, most of these are British exams. So that's how they say it, right?
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
see that all the time in Facebook groups. Be careful of that if you're a student and anybody who kind of guarantees results. Um, as a student, like we guarantee you'll be prepared to pass your IELTS. Like, look at that with a squinty eye because
mm,
like there are so many factors with
yeah,
exam results that how can you possibly guarantee results? These
yeah.
are warning signs.
That's what they did, with the franchise. They guaranteed results and offered a money back guarantee if it didn't work out. But they also guaranteed a job if somebody went through their TEFL course, and I think they could actually guarantee that because there's so many people willing to hire just anybody in
Yeah,
Thailand.
yeah,
So
just hook them up.
right,
um so for teachers, which is like us, which is what you, some warning signs to look out for is one that I actually was in the middle of falling for was paying companies to distribute my CV, my resume
mhm,
to places.
agents, right?
Yeah, but agents, you don't really, and I want to make this clear to people, you don't have to pay agents to distribute your resume.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm pretty lucky because I went the legitimate route at first. I went through the International TEFL Academy, got my practice teaching, and I got in contact with a consultant who didn't I didn't have to pay him anything. He just worked for the finder's fee,
Hmm.
and he gave me these jobs and got the school paid him for finding me.
Yeah,
So
that's how it works. The school pays the recruiters.
right,
So
right,
if you have any recruiters that are
and
asking money from you as a teacher, like don't do it because that the
yeah,
schools pay legit recruiters
yeah. But
to find
sometimes they
teachers.
hide this. They say they don't ask for anything, but they'll garnish your wages from the school. Like the school pays them a part of your wages. So
Weird.
yeah,
I don't.
and
I
I
went
met
to
some
Korea.
people who were okay with this as well. You know,
That's crazy. Yeah, like you
yeah,
said, like the frog who's swimming in the water as the temperature just rises. Right? They just kind of accept it.
yeah.
Um,
Well, I met this guy. He was kind of savvy about this. I was like, you know, they're taking some of your money from your paycheck. He's like, yeah, and I know exactly how much they're taking. Like, well, why would you put up with that?
I know they're not getting one past me. I'm on to them. I keep an
Right,
eye on how much
exactly.
they're stealing
That was
from
his whole demeanor. He was on top of it.
me.
It's like, I'm not paying anything. What are you doing?
Oh god. This one I actually earlier on I actually fell for this a little bit, paying someone because I had been talking with I had been emailing with this company, and I forget the company's name. I'm sure they're not in business anymore. Just a fly by night scam company.
Hmm.
And and they were like, "Oh, we will make your resume look very professional to get the top recruiters out there." I'm like, okay. And like the initial thing was like $30, like a $30 thing to give me a professional resume. And that's another thing. A lot of teachers who are new, like for one, like it's our first job a lot of the time that needs a resume. We're like,
Hmm.
I don't know how to write a resume, and they don't know that, like you said before, a lot of the times all you need to do is be a native speaker. Like you could literally, not literally, but like one step above, like taking a napkin and writing your job history on that, and many schools will take you. So you don't need this top line resume. But so I was like, okay, I'll pay like 25 or $30. In poker, we call that a feeler bet, right? You just like test the waters. And then they didn't send it back to me, and they were asking for more money, like hundreds of dollars to distribute my resume.
Mm.
And so I was like, ooh, that's a little more of an investment now. And so I told them no.
Yeah.
And then they called me, and we were talking online, or we were talking on the phone, and it was like an Indian guy or a Pakistani guy. And he's like, yes, yeah, we would. And they have this whole script. And as I was talking to him, I was on the internet uh, typing his company, and the whole thing was like scam, scam, scam. And I was like, well, uh, I did some research on your company, and I have it on my I'm gonna have him on the phone, and his scams all over on my computer. And he's like, he starts going into panic mode. He's like, well, yes, Mr. Jesse, anybody can write anything they want on the internet, and that does not mean that it's true. And I'm like, yeah, well, I'm looking at this source after source after source. Eventually, like, he wouldn't take no for an answer, obviously. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, listen, you got $30 for me. Congratulations on that. Go to your next person and have a good day. And you're not getting any more from me. Sorry.
Yeah.
And had it there. But they're everywhere. People are trying to take your money in unethical ways.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No doubt.
Um, this falls into yours, and I only wrote this because from your story. So thank you for warning us about this. Paying somebody to promote their material. No, they should be paying you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, even if it was only commission based, like if they had promised to pay me 80% of the profits and I didn't have to pay anything, it might have even been a good deal.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
like
absolutely.
if I actually made those 3 sales without having to pay $30,000 to get them, then yeah, why not?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, but you're
But they called it a
promoting,
franchise. It's like I was buying into something physical, I was
I'm
buying
gonna
into
buy
the training
Starbucks. I have my,
that yeah.
you know, yeah. Um, and obviously, like we touched on, if it's too good to be true, be careful. Because like you said, and credit to you, that you were looking for, you know, I don't think anything that unusual, looking for good money for working smarter, not harder. I don't think anyone can fault you for that.
Yeah.
It's just be careful if you're doing that. And that's all I think.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, be careful.
Yeah.
And
Um,
realize that there's a lot of people out there. This guy, Jimmy Kringle, made millions off of people, and he's not even well known. There's tons of people who it works on a ton of people. You wouldn't believe how many people it works on because the people wouldn't be doing this if it didn't work.
yeah.
So
And
yeah,
this field, man, it's full
it's
of
fraught with it.
inexperienced people.
Yeah,
Inexperienced young people, usually just out of college. And it's prime pickings for sharks like that,
yeah,
which also gives a bad name for like legit, because there are, I mean, we talked a lot about scams here, but there are a lot of legit places to teach. There are a lot,
yeah,
a lot of legit places to teach online in different
yeah.
countries, a lot of legit schools and
Right.
academies. I know a lot of like
Yeah.
academy
And
owners.
legit, like I want to say, legit is also on a spectrum. So it, there's people who would pay you, like I said, for what they promised to pay during the contract period. But once that is up, if there's some other outstanding money they owe you, they're not going to pay that unless you renew the contract and keep working with them. So all bets are off once you stop working with the school. And I just want to say to teachers out there, don't put up with this. Um, that's that's why the whole industry is like this because people just put up with it. But so I didn't put up with it. I didn't want to put up with it, and I did have to a few times because what can I do?
Mm,
But they owed me some money after the
your
contract was
school, you
up.
mean?
Yeah, my school that I was
Mm,
working for, and they just didn't pay. Like I said, I had one good employer. I worked with maybe 5 employers. There was one good employer who did pay everything and then some because they kind of liked what I was doing and they were good people. But there were these other employers. Once I was done, they were done paying me. So
yeah, that's the thing, and that's, I think, um
you
probably
get
more
ripped
so
off.
in China than other places, really,
Yeah,
because like you said, even to get in there is not above board. I started in South Korea, and everything that I've done in South Korea was above board and done by the schools and academies. I know a lot of people, well, not a lot, but I've known people and heard stories of
yeah,
academies doing, cutting their corners. you know
yeah.
I was fortunate. I've never had really a bad experience with academies or schools I've worked with. Now I'm in Spain. um
Hmm.
but it's something to
Okay.
be careful about, and like you said,
Yeah.
ask questions. It Ask questions. That's just
Yeah.
it.
I've been to Seoul a couple times. I've heard of these hagwons, they call them in
Yeah,
South Korea.
yeah,
So yeah, I don't know what's going on there, but yeah, it could happen, anywhere, I guess.
yeah, yeah. And that's actually a good point what you said. Like, make sure the school's doing something above board. If they're cutting corners, especially in Korea, where most places are doing things above board. Most places are doing things by the book, the way they're supposed to be. So if you have a place that's not, that's a giant red flag. There's so much
Yeah, and
demand
maybe
there
they
that
don't even
just
know what
skip
they're
right past.
doing.
Exactly. Maybe, and that goes with anywhere really. But yeah, maybe they don't know what they're doing. Maybe they're unsure and they're just getting started. Maybe they'll rip you off and they don't intend to, but they're just failing. They don't know what they're doing. you
Yeah,
know.
right.
So I've said this before. A lot of business people will see English the English language as a lucrative business opportunity. And it's really not, because most academies, like, they're fighting for bottom, you know, because it's all about, like, most of people, it's all about, like, offering courses and programs for the least amount of money, right?
Yeah.
And it looks like it could be an opportunity, but doing that route, paying the academy, paying the rent, paying the electric and the utilities, and finding students, it's a big, you've got to really have your eggs together to run an academy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But very nice. There are, like I said, there are a lot of good opportunities. I don't want this to be completely negative, because there are a lot of good opportunities, a lot of good schools that could pay well and open up new
Yeah.
opportunities for your life.
And I was wondering how that was going with the coronavirus and everything. Are people still traveling? Like, what's going on there?
No,
Has it all
nobody's
moved
traveling.
online?
Yeah,
Yeah.
most of the classes are done online. All of the classes are done online. Most of the academies here, they've transitioned to online learning, and there are a lot of online learning platforms that people are using too, like italki and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, thank you for your time, Levi.
Thank you for helping me get the message out. I hope somebody, learns something from this and help them avoid something terrible or catastrophic in their life.
Yeah, and yeah, do your research. And the best thing to do is type. If you have any questions, type. This is what I do when I approach anything: is type that name plus scam in Google and see what
Yeah.
comes up. You
Right.
know.
Yeah.
Um. So thank you. Any parting words? You'll do fine, man. You'll do fine. You're always looking forward. Yeah, I see it. I hear it in your voice that you're taking responsibility, like I said, and that's the first step. And that's just it. If anyone, by the way, tells you and you read anything, anyone messaged you, you just didn't do his research. Like, man, we've all had egg on our face. We've all
Yeah.
fucked up, and we've all taken our lumps, man. But not everyone is willing to put themselves out there and like share their
Yeah.
lumps, share their embarrassment, because this is kind of embarrassing, right? Like,
Yeah.
like it's got to be, like I've had, I've made my mistakes too. I actually was deported from South Korea and was thrown in jail for smoking pot over
Wow.
there. So, like, and so I'm coming from a place of, like, I've taken my lumps too, and not in the exact same way, but still, it was a big setback. And when I told you about that scam, it's when I went home and was thinking about my next step. I was like, well,
Yeah.
let me get my CV pumped up and try to move forward. Um, and it's just about
Yeah.
moving forward. Dust yourself off,
Yeah.
move forward, and
And
take those next steps, and learn from
and
your what's going
that's
on.
kind of what I want to say, to close this thing out is just do everything in life legit. If you want to do something, you got to do it for the right reasons.
Yeah,
Obviously I didn't do that. So there, this is what I've learned. You got to do it for the right reasons. Fix what you can before you just run off and try something for the hell of it just to make money.
yeah,
And if you want to get involved in teaching, do a good job at it, and be the best, the best that you can be, and do your homework. And you know, one thing to know about this industry, if you're going to get involved, is that it's fraught with scams. So
yeah.
you got to be careful, especially in this industry.
Yeah, because you are in a vulnerable position.
Yeah.
Uh, thank you again, Levi. I'll let you know when this posts, and stay safe out there. Don't get COVID-19.
Yeah, I think I'm okay. Thanks.
All right, bye.
Bye bye.